Hello, I'm Hamp Overton with my colleague Paul Catalanato, and this is 100 Scariest, where we're looking for the scariest shorts streaming online. In this episode, we're talking about the 2020 film Laura Hasn't Slept by Parker Finn. It stars Caitlin Stasey and Lou Temple. This is the short film that the feature horror film Smile is based on. The IMDb logline is: a woman seeks help from her therapist for a reoccurring nightmare, only to face an unsettling and horrifying reality. So, Paul, what do you want to share about this horror film?
Well, I will start off with saying that I particularly loved this horror film. And I mean, obviously, many people have loved this horror film as this turned into the very successful Smile, which I'm also a big fan of. When you watch the movie, it's easy to see how this transitioned into a successful film career. It's a very glossy and expensive looking short film. It's well performed. The thing that I really enjoy is the contrast between the title, Laura hasn't slept, and apparently Laura isn't awake when you get to
That's
the
a
end
very
of
good
it.
point. Yes. Well, they don't want to give it away. It was fun how they would throw you those misleading things. Like I have a note here when he talks to his receptionist outside of the room, and it's really steering the viewer down a different path by playing these games with the viewer, where he calls her twice. We never hear her voice, but he always calls her twice. So when the twist comes, it's because he's played it up so well, going another direction. It's really a fun twist.
Well, there's two things when you say that. This movie does a good job of playing with film logic, right? It just starts in the scene. So you
Hmm.
just assume that's where you are because I mean, movies are dream logic in general, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's a dream unfolding in front of you, right?
Hmm.
And it starts right in the psychiatrist's office. So what do? You accept it for what you see.
That's a really good point. Yeah, they don't show an establishing shot of a building with a sign that says psychiatrist inside or something like that. Yeah, they just leap you right in, which you're right. That's a great way to start a movie, and it's a great way in this particular film to disguise elements of what's happening to get us right into the story right away.
That when you talk about the therapist, that's like the best moments for me, where he orders the drug and then she gets real excitable. Cancel that order.
Right, right. Again, he's talking to someone off screen. So what the filmmaker has done is and filmmakers do this all the time. They create the illusion of a larger world than what we see in front of the camera. And what he did is he played on our belief of that. You know, it's the old it's a trick that he did. When we hear people do this in a say regular film, we assume that there's a bigger world outside beyond the walls. And in this one, he knew that we would believe that that's where we would go. And in the reality, it was the creature playing a game on Laura the whole time, which was interesting. So he understanding how movies work and using that familiarity with it against the viewer is a fun thing that he did.
And you can even argue that it's kind of two levels, right? He does that to us, but he also does that to the main character. He does
Right.
no idea that that's happening, just like we don't. And I mean, he even calls her on it by the end of it. It's like, well, you didn't, do you remember even coming in here, you know? So
Exactly. I felt a little ripped off by that. I'm like, well, we didn't get to see that.
but
Wait a minute.
but that's the commentary, right? It's almost breaking down film structure right in front of us.
It is.
So,
It's fun. Right. Hmm.
and look, say what you will about Parker Finn's ability to direct. This short does not work without Lou Temple's voice.
Oh, you like
He
him, huh?
is so good as the monster and therapist in this movie.
Hmm.
Laura. I mean, I can hear it.
Yeah. Have you seen him in? I mean, he's like such a seasoned pro. He's been acting for like 30 or 40 years when I look him up there. And also the young woman that played Laura was terrific. To be at that level of panic, Caitlin, for such a long time, that's a lot of effort and it's exhausting, I know, for actors when you have them perform at that really, really high level. It's hard. And then okay, we gotta cut and relight and move the camera. Okay, back to one. give us a panic again, and to leap right back in there. So I thought she did a really good job also.
Well, she's fantastic, and if I had to say I appreciate anything, is that she ends up really being the poster of Smile, right?
She does, right.
She ends up being, and she's the opening, she's the cold open to the movie too.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
almost like there's a segue from what happens to her here. I know it's not a true sequel, Smile. I know it's kind of a spiritual sequel because, from my understanding, when I was listening to him on a podcast, they were interested in him in turning this into a feature, but he went in several different directions when he was developing the feature, which I think was for the better and wise. Like I think he's obviously very intelligent. Like he realized, well, this is what works in the short, and I'm going to turn that one concept, but I'm going to go a different direction and expand upon it with the feature.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. It was fun to look at his earlier film. What was that called? I got a note right here on it. The Hide Behind. and that and then you watch this film, Laura Doesn't Sleep, and Laura Hasn't Slept, and then you watch Smile, and you can see an evolution of the filmmaker, and I find that always fun to do. That oh, they figured this out, oh, they figured this out, oh, now they're using this element for that. Like the creepy smile was in his very first short. I don't know if it's his first short, but an earlier short, the Hide Behind, where that's the ending. The surprise, the monster is that big creepy smile. And I think he probably really liked that idea, and which is why he included it in further horror films going down the road.
Yeah, when you talk about the smile too, have you seen the movie poster for Laura Hasn't Slept? It's just the eyeballs.
I made a note of that myself because it rolls up just like the psychiatrist's eyes roll up into
Hmm.
his head, and again it's foreshadowing. It's telling you what's going to happen in the movie poster, and it's fun that they do that to let us know. I think it's a great movie poster.
It is. It's very simple. It gives nothing away, but it also lets you know exactly what kind of movie you're about to watch.
Yeah, because it does a couple of things. One, it starts with the eyes really bright. I mean, not really bright, really wide, like the Caitlin character,
Mm.
her character, Laura. And that's what she's in. She's in a panic mode. And then the eyes roll up, which her eyes, I guess they do at the very end, but his eyes is where we really see the eyes roll up. So they kind of combine the two with her panic in her eyes and the eye roll up in his eyes, which I thought was interesting.
Eh, What's also curious too is he looks more interested in the monster in the short. Whereas when you watch the feature, he's more interested in the smile. On it's just interesting to me that it's like it's a change. Both of them are definitely seem to definitely have their root in mental illness, right? I think they're both commentary on mental illness. I don't think that's a stretch. I mean,
Hmm.
she's in a therapist's office, right? So,
Right.
but I think, man, I tell you, he really does, in specifically the feature. You get a sense of what it would be like to truly lose your mind. So
It
both
is
films do
interesting.
that.
Yeah, I looked at and when I was reading about it, this came up again in several reviewers where they referenced Nightmare on Elm Street,
Hmm.
where when you go asleep, that's where in that movie Freddy Krueger comes out. But it also had a bit of it in Insidious. They had something similar in Insidious, and then a movie I hadn't seen called Before I Wake. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And then so there's actually almost like a category of this type of horror film. And that also comes through in psychological dream category. If you saw the movie Flatliners, I don't know if you saw that back in the 90s, and then more
They remade
recently,
it.
yeah, yeah, that's right. They remade it in 2017, I think. And then The Machinist is another similar one. Altered States was one, another one called
Mhm.
Dreamscape. So there's a lot of films that have explored that this world of are you in a dream or you're not in a dream? How do you tell the difference? And again, filmmakers of horror films and things like that, if you find something that your audience can relate to, which is a dream in this situation here, then you can really play with that and play on their fears. The classic is Jaws. Even when I I was way too young when my dad took me to see Jaws, and I've been terrified to swim in the open ocean or even lakes. There's no sharks in lakes, but I'm terrified of it because it plays upon that fear, and you hold it, and then this is the same thing. We all go to sleep, and we all have dreams, and now it's playing upon that similar type of thing going on right there, and that psychological play. You find those hidden crevices that people, can have frightening moments in.
That must be why haunted house movies are so common, ubiquitous, because everybody lives in a structure of some sort, or mostly everybody. I don't want to be so insensitive, but everybody lives somewhere mostly, and it must be why those movies do well. Because people can relate living in a house.
Sure, that, or you can have a dark area in the woods, there's nothing like a creepy walk through the woods. Those are common
Yeah.
things that happen. Or even just a large building. I've been to a hospital late at night where, all the doctor's office, visits are over and it's just empty. And you walk, I mean, there's patients behind the doors, but, you walk through there and it feels like, something could come out at any time. And so, yeah. So I think a large, scary area like that is, well, that's actually, rule number one of horror movies is to isolate your victim before you.
But it's interesting. So, I mean, I think you're hitting on something else, though, is that yes, isolate you, but you have to be isolated in a familiar place. Like you can't just be in a place that. So, if I was isolated on a spaceship, it's not as scary because, well, I'm not going to be on an alien spaceship. But I
Well,
could be isolated in a home.
did you see the movie Aliens or Alien or
I
okay?
don't find them scary, though. I love
Oh, you
them.
don't? Oh, that's interesting. Well, I found those. Yeah, you're right. We can't identify with being on a spaceship, but that's basically the horror, where you isolate someone, and so interesting. So you did not find Alien scary. I found it very frightening.
Not the first one. I know they consider Alien a horror movie. I
Hmm.
mean, the moment when the alien comes out of John Hurt is great. Don't get me wrong, and the fact that they didn't tell them on set what was happening, that's great. Yeah, I didn't find it scary, and I was very young. I was probably 8 or 9 when I watched that. That did not bother me in the least.
You were made of sterner stuff than I was, I guess, Paul.
Well, I don't know. Who knows? But I can count on one hand the movies that left a mark on me.
Give me one.
Give me one, and believe it or not, The Blob.
Oh, interesting. Not the original one, but the remake.
Yeah, in '89. And it's
Uh-huh.
for the dumbest reason of all.
It was shot in Louisiana.
No, well, no, I think that's the original. No, it scared me because the second person to die in the movie was named Paul. And I was young when I saw it, and I was 10. And I can still remember it. It scared me because I had never seen a movie where a character with my name died, and it left a mark on me. So it scared me.
It could happen to me.
Yeah, so I identified with it. And it's funny, I still remember the scene. Like, I mean, the effects in that movie are fantastic. But not to go on, not to take the focus off of Parker's movie, but yeah,
Hmm.
The Blob is an amazing movie that they've not been able to redo. We're due for a remake of that one. But Parker's movie, you can look at this short, Laura Hasn't Slept, because it's an interesting story, right? This movie comes out during COVID, so they can't go to a film festival,
Yeah, right.
and people are watching online. So it's interesting. He doesn't have to do the rounds that most filmmakers have to do, where it goes to film festival to film festival. No one was going anywhere, so Hollywood execs were watching what was streaming on these festivals because they all went digital, right? So South by is streaming this movie. Some executive watches it and goes, we need to get this. If I'm not mistaken, there were multiple executives watching him, and he was wanted by several people. So,
Interesting. Yeah,
so
it's interesting because I thought when things went digital for these festivals that attendance actually went down. It's interesting that more people would be watching these or at least making these kind of decisions.
the people that make green light movies were watching them.
I
They
guess I guess
Because what
my
was
thing is that, if it was an in-person festival, you could judge the reaction of the audience also. Whereas if you watch it streaming, you're making an individual decision. So it surprised me to learn that's what happened, is it was viewed on a streaming service and they decided to give him the chance to make a feature rather than seeing it, in a theater with an audience reacting, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So they don't have the Friday the 13th reaction here. What they're basically doing is yeah, they're making their own call, but what wasn't happening? Nothing was being made at that time. So I imagine what was going through their minds, they were looking for material
For content.
anywhere they could find it. Because at some points in COVID, as you well know, I mean, we didn't know when we were going to get back to work. We didn't know when
That's
movies
a
were
good
going to
point.
be made.
Sure. And then they also slowed down the amount of movies they could be made because some people didn't want to make a movie and be on a set with COVID
Yeah.
possibilities.
I
Yeah.
mean, we're still dealing with it between the strikes, AI, and the fires in LA and COVID. I mean, the
Hmm.
movie industry is still paralyzed because of all these disasters that's hitting it. And this
Hmm.
is kind of where this starts.
Interesting. Yeah. And now here he is, two feature films later. Good for him.
And about to do the remake of Possession, I mean,
Is that what it is? Okay.
which is a rough, rough movie. Whew, that's a rough movie. I've only been able to watch that one once. Have you ever seen the original Possession? That's the one where the woman's assaulted by the ghost. It's rough. That's a rough one to watch.
Gotcha.
I would recommend it because it's very scary, but you will only be able to watch it once because of like probably the headspace. It's just a ooky movie. He's perfect for something like that. Um, you know, I want to offer you this. So you and I have been looking at these movies, and I don't think it's any secret that you and I have enjoyed the ones from the lower budget side and how when the low budget ones, turn somebody into a big name like, Portrait of God.
Hmm.
How would you compare this to those? Because this one, everything is on in front of the screen. Like, this is a very expensive movie.
It is, but it is still on the lower budget side because from what I read, he made this as a collaboration with a film program, right? But the film had a lot of student help on it.
Hmm.
My understanding is that the production designer was someone that got their thesis credit by working on this short film. The cinematographer, I think he went to USC, if I'm not mistaken. And then after going to Columbia College beforehand, I had some notes from him. I'm sorry, there was here we go. The movie was filmed on at Chapman University on their campus. So he had probably access to a soundstage, a free soundstage, probably a cooperation to work and have students get credit for it, that type of thing. I don't know because I don't believe he went to Chapman himself, but he worked it out to work with Chapman and their student filmmakers there. So that probably saved him a lot of money, not having to rent a soundstage. It looks like his cinematographer had his own gear. Maybe that helped also right there. So it was a very polished and well-made production. And he talks about how he had been trying to make something to launch his career for 8 years. He talked about that, I think, in one of the podcasts. So he
Hmm.
had been at this for a while. I'd be interested to know if he has other films out there. The Hide Behind was the only other one that I found that he had made, and it seems like he has clearly developed um, a clear sense of style and a clear ability to write and direct, and that usually doesn't happen when someone's only made one short before you go to this level. And so I would like to know a little bit more. I mean, I didn't get the podcast that you listened to. Did he talk about more of that, like when he was in film school and the movies he made then and what he made in that period of time between finishing film school and making When Laura Hadn't Slept?
You know, I don't recall that information. That would be something that we might want to find out.
Mhm.
I don't recall how long
Well,
he was that, but
from
I
the
do
other
remember that story.
yeah, from the other interviews we've done, I've learned that many of these filmmakers they are working in the industry doing maybe they work as an editor or maybe they work as doing, corporate movies, I mean, corporate productions or doing commercials or music videos or whatever. And then they still have the love to make a feature at some point. So they'll make these shorts in the hopes of doing that. So maybe he was doing that. I don't know. Some of the other filmmakers we've looked at, they've had websites where we could learn more about them. So that'd be interesting. I just like, because again, this is a very, very polished production here. And yes, you can hire good crew, but someone has to put it all together, and that's usually the director. And since he
Hmm.
went on to make Smile successfully, I think the credit has to be given to him. Otherwise, Smile probably wouldn't have been as successful as it was.
No, and you can tell by just watching Smile that he has a good head on his shoulders for directing.
Yeah, so my I guess what I was getting at is that yes, he had a larger budget and a more professional looking film. Um, but I don't want to take anything away from him because he had more money. I love the low budget ones that we viewed, and I love, seeing what the creative stuff they've come up with. But I think this is a really well made film also.
The green screen ending is pretty incredible when the whole thing just, changes behind
Changes.
her.
Hmm.
I did not see that coming the first time I watched it. Like when everything falls apart, it really falls apart.
I got a question for you. Back to the story element of it, where, the whole room has destroyed itself and, and he disappears and she says, you're not real, and turns around and he's gone. She looks out the window. And what does she see? And to me, it reminds me of those animations where they show neurons firing and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Is that what you thought also? What
Yeah, I thought she was inside herself.
she was looking at her own brain when she was, is
Yeah,
that
like
what
her
you
own
gathered?
psyche. Yeah, like her
Yeah.
own psyche, right?
I guess I wasn't quite sure if it was supposed to be her own brain or what was going on in that situation there. Um,
You're right. It is good. It gets right to the point. It definitely proves itself to be well directed. I mean, the way it starts off very confidently, just starting in the middle of it. And what I really enjoy is how they're able to get the exposition out between the two in just dialogue because she's supposed to be confessing because she's talking to a therapist. She's supposed to get this kind of information out, you know?
you're right. It was a great tool to use from a filmmaking perspective. You need the audience to understand the story, the backstory. In a short film, you often don't have much time. And this has a backstory where she hasn't slept, right? It's in the title. And so she explains what's happening. And that's great information. And it was a great way to give it to the audience. So it was the whole script is very clever in how it's put together and gives us the information we need, misleads us down a certain way. All of it just really works well. It's crafted very well, the script.
Well, you and I were just talking, like, you look, horror films start off with quote unquote the normal world
Hmm.
before things go crazy. The real twist of this is we're never in the normal world. We just think we are.
Yeah, he plays a fun game with us. Hmm. But he
Uh,
leads us to believe that we are.
and he uses, and that's what makes him a good director. He uses what we bring to the table. And that's
Exactly.
always the best directors, right?
Hmm.
He understands what our preconceived notions are. He
And
knows that when he starts, we're going to accept where we are.
hmm right. And he plays with that very well.
Mhm.
And just kind of draws us down this path, and then he pulls the rug out from underneath us. And so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, because I mean, really, if you really wanted to get into the nitty gritty, I mean, you could write a dissertation on the on film logic and use this short.
But this has been done in feature films also, right? What was the
Yeah.
horror film where the new doctor comes to an insane asylum? Ben Kingsley was in it, and it turns out that the
Shutter,
inmates.
Shutter Island.
Well, that was a different one. That was DiCaprio. Um, with Leonardo. Yeah, that wasn't yet. Okay, it does the same thing though. Yeah, that's a perfectly good example there also, where the whole story is a lie, right?
Hmm.
And movies have done that quite a bit. This was the one I was saying about is a little bit different, where it's kind of more of a horror film. Or The Others was another one where you're completely led in another direction also, which is kind of fun. So.
Well, they're taking our preconceived notions, and that sounds like a very simple thing for anybody watching or who comes across this and just blows it off. That's not the easiest thing to do.
It isn't. The classic is The Sixth Sense, right? Where you just un and you and when you go back and watch it, the filmmaker actually gives you clues as to what's happening here. But you have to know the ending before you can really be aware of it. You just assume it's a boy being treated by a therapist throughout
Hmm.
the whole film, and that he's a normal person walking around talking to him. And it isn't until the end where the whole world just turns and and it's fun when it's well done because and Shutter Island does a good job also with it in that you don't feel like you've been deceived, but you enjoy the twist. You know, it's not like, oh, I wasted the rest of the movie just believing something that isn't true, you know, because there's other information in the film you can tell. You can actually tell the story without revealing the twist at the same time.
Exactly. It's not cheap. It's
Hmm.
earned,
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
earned, right? Hmm.
And then this movie earns every bit of it. And it's amazing that it follow that simple pattern. Like, but again, well cast. It's very well cast. It's different in some from of our other movies in that there's a lot of dialogue in this short.
It is, and he another website I forgot. It was from Nick Taylor's website on horror movies. He interviews Finn and summarizes some stuff, and he has some really good points to make for filmmakers. One is he says, try not to do too many things, when instead focus on doing one thing really, really effectively. That's what makes
Mhm.
a short stand out. And I think that's a really good idea. Find one thing and focus completely on that. He
And I
also
agree with that.
recommends things, pulling off things that are not typical or difficult to do in your shorts to show what you're capable as the director. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah.
No, absolutely. It's funny, like one of my favorite lessons that because as you know, I've been using these videos to teach a class, and one of my favorite things that I've gotten the chance to teach is don't have your characters talk when there's no one to listen to them.
Yeah, we have a tendency to think that everyone has to say something, and movies are first and foremost a visual medium. It's not theater. Theater, you can have someone walk around a stage to a certain degree, but at some point they have to explain to the audience what's going on, Even when someone gets stabbed, you need someone saying he got stabbed because you may not see it in the back row. But movies are a completely different medium in that regard, and that it's visual. We have the power of the close-up, we have the power of the cutaway, we have all these things that you can use to tell your story visually.
Absolutely, because they turned their scripts in, and there's like these moments where they're looking at their phone and their friend is late, or they went into a building and they're looking, and they're like, "Why are they late? Where are they at?" And
Hmm.
I was like, and I had to bark through it. I was like, "Don't have them say that." I was
Right,
like, I was like, have them look at their phone, look at the time on the dash, then text, "Where are you?"
right, right.
I was
It's
like,
it's tricky to because like everyone, you watch movies, you enjoy them, you don't analyze them and dissect them, and you have to if you want to be a filmmaker. You have to
"Mhm."
deconstruct films and understand why they work. And even when you deconstruct them, it's tricky to understand, well, why is it working, And so it does take study to figure that out. That's why I'm always impressed when you have young filmmakers like this do such a great job.
Yeah. You can tell when somebody puts the time in the pre-production on a movie. Like he didn't just write this and
Hmm.
went with it. He developed this movie. Like this was
Right.
something
Not a first
this didn't
draft.
just happen.
Yeah. Hmm.
Just dedication. So, what did they say on Letterboxd on this movie? I think the very first one I come to, Hamp, is Scarier Than Smile, which I thought was funny. I don't think I agree with that, but still. The one right under it is, and now this made me want to check out the Smile movies.
Huh?
Can't beat that.
Hmm.
Me and that MF are gonna have to box first before he takes me down. I just love stuff like that. I don't know if that would work. This monster was pretty deadly. So what are we watching next time?
Next time, we're going to watch a short called People, written, directed, shot, and edited by Jerron Henri McCree.
Well, I haven't seen this one, so I can't wait to watch it and talk about it.
It's fun. I think you'll get a kick out of it.
All right. Well, I guess that about wraps this one up. That was Laura Hasn't Slept by Parker Finn. I recommend you check it out if you haven't done so, and especially if you're a fan of the Smile series. I think you will enjoy it. Well, I'm Paul. That's Hamp, and this is 100 Scariest. Like, share, and comment. Until next time, keep it scary.